So today I'm driving a very special BMW. This is how BMW should be done. This of course is the predecessor to the M2, the 1M, 2011 car. There was sort of a parts bin special, but they still got it right. It's a unique car in many ways, and for a lot of BMW fans, this is their favorite BMW, and for good reason. It's certainly well up there on my list. I am surprised at what a pleasure this car is to drive. A lot of people at the time were, oh, it's not a naturally aspirated engine, oh, it's not a true M car, it's got an odd name, you know, etc, etc. But it has become a bit of a legend amongst BMWs, for good reason. It is awesome to drive. And of course these days all BMWs are turbocharged, so no one cares anymore that it's a turbocharged car. And this engine fits the personality of this car perfectly. The only downside of this engine is you can get a little tiny bit of turbo lag around the 3000 RPM mark, right where I am now. Put my foot down, and then it comes in. So yeah, you can get a little bit of turbo lag, but otherwise it's the perfect amount of power for this little short wheelbase car. Driving this is quite a unique experience, and compared to other M cars that I've driven recently, obviously the M2 and of course my old M4, they feel like tanks compared to this little short wheelbase 1M. Yeah, it's really a go-kart of a thing. And of course when the rear end slips out like it did just then, because of the short wheelbase, it gives you a little bit of a shock because it slips out so quickly with little warning. But that's kind of the fun of this car. The other thing I notice is where the gear lever is perfect for my weird body shape. I love how I put my arm down there and it just goes straight to the gear lever, and it's such a beautiful throw. I could truly get used to driving this car. So when I say parts bin special, this car received a lot of transplant parts from what was current at the time, the E92 M3. Brakes, rear suspension, dampener, all sorts of bits and pieces were transplanted into this car. And I think a lot of people would have liked to have seen that V8 engine go into this car as well, but of course I think that would have threatened the M3 sales at the time. Yeah, so there are only real downsides. I've got friends that own these cars, and the only real downsides is even though they've got the M brakes, people still like to upgrade the brakes. And the gearbox, well, it's fantastic for these back roads. It's quite a short gearing, so you, on the highway, even in 6th gear, you know, at 70 miles an hour, you're still doing 3,500 RPM, which is quite high. So it's not a long distance cruiser, this car. But for zipping around back roads, it can't be beat. It's just got such a great feel to it. It is a little go-kart of a machine. And on the inside, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Obviously, this car is based on the old 1 Series, so it's got all the 1 Series stuff, a smaller dash, smaller interior dimensions, the odd cup holder, things like that, and of course the horrible standard BMW leather, even though they jazz it up with a bit of nice deviated stitching matching the outside colours. Oh, and that's another thing. They only come in 2 colours. You can get it in the white or this orange colour. Both nice colours, but yeah, not a large selection of colours for the 1M. And of course, no one buys these cars for their interiors. They buy it for the unique driving experience that the 1M provides. And it is. Amongst BMWs, this is a unique driving experience. It is really a cool little car to drive. And on the outside, it's a love it or hate it shape. I was never that impressed with how the headlights looked on the 1 Series, but I do love how it's flared at the back and the stubby little design. It's just a beautiful car on the outside. So if you watch a lot of YouTube automotive channels, you've seen this car before. Doug Namero had this car on his channel, for example. This is owned by Glenn from Glenn's Car Collection. He kind of whores himself around other YouTubers, which is cool. He's a super nice guy and he's got a really interesting car collection. So I'm going to try and get hold of his, he's got a Porsche 993 Turbo, one of my favorite cars, so we'll try and get that off him at some point as well. So in conclusion, if you ever want to drive one of BMW's most unique models and arguably one of BMW's most fun models, try this little 1M. It is a blast to drive.